All right, let's go ahead and get started. Looks like we're still waiting on Dave Coyle, but we do have Chris White here. Um, again, I just want to welcome you all to our price increase webinar. What I want to give our CEO Tom Beidle just a few minutes just to kind of introduce everything, and we'll give you just a few minutes. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks, Spencer. Yeah, excited to be here. This meeting really is a service or an educational session with the main goal of helping each of you navigate, I think, the sensitive topic of pricing. I say sensitive because I think there are many people in dry cleaning, outside of dry cleaning, that think this is sensitive, and I would agree with that. At the end of the day, what our goal is with the time that we'll spend together is to help our customers, each of you, maximize your efficiency and, most importantly, your profitability. Let's face it, we're in an inflationary period. Supply costs have gone up, sometimes some as much as 25%. I was just talking to a colleague in a different industry. They work in the food wrapping business, so the film that goes over frozen foods in the frozen food section. They've had 28 pricing increases to their end customers just in this calendar year. So we know labor shortages are causing us to pay our employees more. CPI is still crazy high. I believe in September it came in above 5 again. And so as dry cleaners, we're going to have to adjust our pricing to maintain current solvency, to maintain our current profitability. And so the goal of this time together really will be about how do you do it? What are some of the tips or tricks in doing price increases? And then we'll go into a time of education around how Spot can help do that. So excited to be here. Thanks again for everybody that has joined, and I'll turn it back to you, Spencer.
Much appreciated. I thank you, Tom, for kicking us off there. Looks like we're still waiting on Dave Coyle, so not sure what's delaying him at this point. But we do have Chris White from America's Best Cleaners. Chris, want to give you a chance to say hi, introduce yourself.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. It's Chris White here, coming to you from Anchorage, Alaska.
Oh,
what
boy.
What else do you need to say, Spencer?
Nothing else. I think everything else is on the screen right now. So we are very privileged to have Chris, and hopefully we get Dave here in just a few minutes.
The GoToMeeting webinar tool is kind of bugging out because I can't get my web camera to come on either. So
yeah, I think that's an issue with GoToWebinar, because I was planning on having my webcam on this entire session as well. So I'm having the same. I think we're all having the same problem there.
Gotcha.
Okay, so hopefully we get Dave in here in just a moment. But we'll go ahead and get started. And we're going to do this in just kind of a panel style, which I think right now we've got a panel of one.
So we're going to do podcast style, right?
Yeah, we'll do it podcast style. That's perfect. Additionally, let's just, I want to quickly introduce the other members of Spot that we have here to help support you. We've got Nicole Kirby from our customer success team. Yep, go ahead, Nicole.
Hello, everybody. I'm here to show you the fun stuff in Spot once we get through with the discussion.
Yep. Then we've got Tom. You already talked. Tom already introduced himself. We've got Torin Brown, our VP of Product.
Good morning or good afternoon, depending upon where you are, and thanks for attending the webinar.
And then we've got Wash Respis, our Product Manager.
Good morning or afternoon, as it were, and we're just here to maybe answer any questions. I'm going to attempt to reach out to Dave again to see if he's having any technical difficulty we can help him with.
Perfect. Appreciate that, Wash. Wash will also be manning our questions list. So using your GoToWebinar control panel, feel free to submit any questions through there. If you do have, we will have some time for some open Q&A here at the end. So if you'd rather let us know at that point, we can certainly cover that. So the first thing that I want to talk about is why do we want to change our prices? I know that's kind of open-ended, but why do I want to change my prices? Why do I want to raise my prices, Chris?
Okay, well, that's a pretty broad question. So obviously, like Tom indicated in his introduction, there's some inputs right now into our cost side that are obviously forcing you to ride those up or drive those pricing up. But what I tend to coach my clients on is starting with yourself. Why do you have a pricing model the way it is? And the pricing model should be devised to drive wealth to you as the owner of the business. And if you start from that point and saying, hey, my personal goals in developing wealth for owning a small business, because hopefully everyone on this call owns their business, not to have a full-time high-paying job, but to build wealth and build an asset that then can be passed on or sold on to provide whatever lifestyle you want to have. So starting from there, putting in yourself in this mindset of where I'm not reacting to the market right now, or I'm not reacting to my competitors, but I'm starting from me and what I want to gain from my business and what I want my business to do outward facing in regards to, one, being a profitable business as just in the business sense of it, but also being some type of potential agent for change in the community and being effective in the community. Because at the end of the day, when you start gaining wealth, you want to do things with it, right? So start there and say, hey, I want my lifestyle to be X. And my lifestyle doesn't need to be me being on the spotting board 60 hours a week or doing these other things. I'm building this business to be here, and then work your way from there and saying, okay, I then need to have X profit margin to do that, and then start putting in all your cost side inputs. And that right there will start to begin to help you develop what your pricing model should look like. And then you start looking at other factors in the marketplace to see if that's feasible. You might need to adjust that, but I would always stress everyone to start where they're at. Now, I'm fairly certain that everyone on this call is not starting from scratch, so you inherited a pricing structure from historically you've just always priced this way, or you've had some type of strategy where you've paid attention and can shop the other one, and maybe you want to be the price leader, or you want to be right below the price leader, or for whatever reason. But right now, the opportunity to raise prices and I would say almost correct ourselves in regards to pricing is pretty a unique opportunity. It's almost like a once in a decade opportunity right now. And if you look at what Tom's talking about, just on your generalized index numbers that are coming in with cost of living coming 5.6% or inflationary rates at 5.6%, but then the massive inputs of energy costs going up, the labor, which is our biggest line item that everyone should be looking at, is obviously exponentially growing faster than we ever expected, even in those markets where they were already looking at $15 minimum wages. That doesn't mean anything right now. I have a client in Seattle right now that can't even get someone to answer an ad unless they're offering $25 an hour. And that's just for a regular entry level position. So, and that's coming a long way in pricing side. So why upping your prices? One is the economics are going to force you to, and at the end of the day, if you go back to what I said in the beginning, if your goal is to build wealth and have a successful, sustainable business, your pricing needs to be in line with what your goals and missions are. And this industry is plagued with cynics. So a lot of people I see on the interwebs are always, knocking other ones, or why they're charged so much, or why they don't charge enough, or whatever it may be. And I have to say that, it's very easy to be critical of other people, but you don't know what their personal goals are, one, in regards to building their wealth, but then second of all, what type of vehicle their business is for them and for their community. And then third, I think you have to look at is, what is your brand? What is your brand commitment? And is your pricing in line with other associated types of brands that people maybe would be purchasing in that that consumer sector? So again, if you're using extreme ends, the ultimate luxury brand versus couture pricing of garments that come in versus, the blue collar uniform style accounts where you're in a neighborhood that maybe doesn't have that type of level of garments, but still has a need for this service. and it's probably more of a value-based pricing because that's the niche or the need that you're fulfilling. Whatever that is, there's no right or wrong. It's just you should be conscientious of this and build your pricing model around whatever your personal goals are. So that was kind of a long, big answer, but that's where we coach everyone to start from.
And that's okay, because that was quite a broad question to begin with anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, so hopefully it kind of smothered a bunch of different areas there. But if I were to distill it down to one thing right now, if the simplest form is, in order for your business to sustain with the cost trends that we're seeing right now and the cost of living indexes going up, you need to substantially raise your prices.
And it looks like we've got Dave here now. Dave, if you want to introduce yourself real quick, just say hi.
Yeah, hey guys, Dave Coyle here. Sorry for had a little crisis come up. Sorry for the late log on, but it's great to be here. I own In the Bag Cleaners, 13 store chain in Wichita, Kansas. We also do pickup and delivery, and I also am the team leader for Maverick Drycleaners, where we help people work on their business instead of in it. So it's great to be here. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Dave. Dave, the question that was quite a broad question, and maybe that wasn't quite so fair, but why should I change my price? And I'd like to give, or why should I raise my prices? And I'd like to give you just a few minutes to address that as well.
Yeah, you bet. I think you know, I think that we've thought about price increases as an industry as almost a monumental task instead of an ongoing adjustment. So I think I hate to say it, but we've kind of psyched ourselves out a little bit that every time we do a price increase, you know, it should be something that we really have to prepare ourselves for. Instead of just following, you know, consumer price index, inflationary trends. You know, obviously, as we all know, prices go up over time. And if we don't make those adjustments, we really get stuck in a spot where it directly erodes our ability to make a profit and a healthy profit, which creates a lack of sustainability, as Chris was just mentioning, a lack of sustainability over time. Plus, I would say that, you know, the price only or low price model, you know, is not, I think, what our best clients, our top 20% are really looking for. So I think, you know, I think once we accept that prices go up over time, it doesn't necessarily need to be a huge decision to adjust prices. The decision is more like, we know we need to do it. The question is, how often then and how much?
Perfect. Yeah, I find it quite interesting. Somebody told me recently that they felt that as an industry, we have, and I say we as a member of the software portion of this industry for 18 years, not so much directly in the industry itself, but the industry has trained its customers to believe that dry cleaning is an inexpensive service, and we all know that to not be the case. And so I think part of it comes down to also retraining our customers to say, hey, you know, you're going to get what you pay for in this industry. And you know, to your point, Dave, kind of coming back to the 80-20 rule that you discussed back in, I think you brought that up in Vegas. You know, who are we really identifying these price increases for? And that leads me into my next question, which is, what factors should be considered when you are preparing to increase your prices? And we'll start with you, Dave.
Yeah, so I think a couple things. When people look at their prices, if they first start getting into business, you know, sometimes we have this illusion that we're like the only one who calls around and checks on other people's prices, right? I think a lot of people do that. most people do that. So, and I think that's okay, but I do caution this idea of following competitors and trying to. I remember when I started 20 years ago, I looked and I said, okay, here's where everyone's prices are. I want to be about 70% of the way up because I don't want to piss a whole lot of people off by coming in too high. But I also don't want to kind of self-sabotage the business by coming in too low. So it was one of these things where I was trying to position myself against the competition. And I've since kind of learned that's the wrong model because I hate to say it, unless my competition is in the top 5% of the industry, they're probably struggling with the same issues and same challenges, if not more, than I am. So why follow them? I do think you have to figure out what segment of your audience or client base you want to serve. I've chosen to square up everything around my top 20%. That can include prices, turnaround time, the caliber of someone that they are face to face with, converting them to route. All these things are built around our top 20%. So to get a really feel for that and what I think the prices should be, about 5 years ago, I started driving the exact neighborhoods that predominantly my 20% go to. And I started looking at the pool service companies, not our industry, but I started looking at the other vendors who are serving my top 20% and seeing where their positioning was. And almost all of them were high priced, high service vendors in their respective industries. So I kind of learned pretty early that was the model to take on. So I think that's the number one question and the number one factor to consider, which is, who are you primarily serving? We all know that if you try to help everyone, you end up helping no one, right? And so I think there's a lot of value to identifying what I call the Dream 20 neighborhoods that you really want to penetrate deeply, and that can be very helpful to start by looking at your top 20%.
Thank you, Dave. Chris, you want to take this one?
Yeah, and I totally agree with what Dave's saying. There is looking at your competitors is not where you should be looking to find your pricing. It's an interesting exercise that it's good to be aware of the market, and aware in giving yourself the confidence to know that you are where you want to be compared to them. There are other tools out there that you can utilize. Secret shopping is one, right? Go out and shop your competitor just to see their price versus value or quality they put out, just so that you can build up your confidence. And that's just to give yourself some information to work off of. Second thing is, look at all the brands that are coming in. And Dave is actually right. Looking at the 80-20 rule is always one of the best places to start, because that's where the revenue is coming from. Those are the people that are making your business. They're the lifeblood of it. But looking at where they're shopping and looking at the brands of clothes that they're bringing in, or the types of households that they're bringing in, and going out and yourself going to those locations and seeing what that looks like. And not just for pricing, but also to build and look at what your service model needs to be like, because pricing is built around your brand, your brand's reputation too. So, a low price cleaner, it might be just a drop it off and bring it in, and that's all that customer may want, and they're happy with that value that they get with that. Or they are buying better clothes, and there's a sense of confidence that they get in knowing that what they're bringing in. So there's a significant difference between a Brioni suit and a Macy's brand suit, and the type of client that buys that suit, and the type of effort and work and risk that goes along with processing that type of garment. And being conscientious and being aware of that is another added bonus to looking at your pricing, especially when you look at your mid-markets in the United States, where you may be serving a broad swath of the demographic, but there is a wealth segment in that demographic that wants you to know that you understand that they shop for things in Paris or in New York or Miami, and you bought these upper brands that are not available local. And we have a lot of our affiliates in ABC that have 2-tier pricing just to go after that. So they have an elevated service model and an elevated pricing model, an elevated marketing and messaging model to that, even beyond the top 20%, their top 5% clients, and are servicing to them based on what their needs are specific to the type of wardrobe they bring in. So I think there's exercises like that and being situationally aware of the market. And yeah, like Dave said, it's good to know what your competitors are doing, just because, hey, it's, you know, your staff usually worries about that more than you do. But knowing where your clients are, where their mind space is, where their money's being spent, and servicing the needs that that level of client has is important. There's also data available. You can buy Coyle data and pricing survey information out there that is targeted for the top quintile of the marketplace. So we purchase these data sets for our affiliates within ABC when we do our annual pricing survey, and we index everyone against these types of things so they have an understanding of where they are within their marketplace. And we do not survey any of the competitors. So we survey what the market is asking for at the time. And so those are just some other types of tools or indicators to get into. The only other thing I would say is that, you know, when you talk about pricing too, pricing can be used as a tool for many different things in regards to a strategy for your growth, and depending on where you're trying to go and going into the marketplace. And also, I think people need to start realizing too, is that it's okay to have multiple levels of pricing within your marketplace, servicing different demographics, if that's where your need is and that's where the opportunity for growth for you may be. Or as everyone faced in the last 18 to 20 months, is I just need pieces in to sustain my business. So that's a once in a decade type scenario too. And hopefully everyone doesn't get hung up on that and they start moving away and going back to their target client and target audience, and looking for the profits there, because that's where the profits really are.
Absolutely. One thing you said kind of stuck out to me, and it was that keyword confidence.
Yeah.
Finding the confidence to raise your prices is a very big thing, because in my mind, and you know, if having a lack of confidence to raise your prices speaks to a lack of confidence in the service you provide.
Sure. Well, I would add to this, and this kind of like what Dave said about psyching ourselves out. If you go a little bit deeper, and I've seen this in just management decisions, but also for owners and pricing, is understanding bottom line change, right? And pricing is a bottom line change activity. And when you start looking at bottom line change and you analyze like whatever your pricing strategy is, you have to factor in that there is going to be pushback and resistance. And I think that a lot of cleaners that I talk to, and I talk to a lot outside of just the ABC people, they don't want conflict, right? So when they raise prices, or what was the rule of thumb that everyone always says, like, you know, you've raised your prices enough when you start getting complaints and you lose your bottom 10%. And you know what? I don't even know if that's even accurate, because the bottom 10%, I'd be banking on no problem, because I don't want them anymore, right? Those are not the clients I want to be with or be at. So when you start looking at your pricing strategy, the first thing everyone has is like, oh, we're going to create conflict. Well, okay, change is always going to have conflict, so plan on that, but just have a measured means of understanding where that elasticity is and what degree of conflict you're willing to have. And so confidence is pretty important in that, right? Knowing, again, your quality stands out above and beyond. And that's where, going back to what I said, if you just did a competitive secret shop every now and again, that helps build confidence. And that confidence is something that you may not really necessarily need, but maybe your staff needs, because your frontline staff are always the ones that are going to be like, oh man, we're going to raise prices again, and we're going to start dealing with the complaints. And at the end of the day, I've seen people make some drastic price increases. As a matter of fact, in our pricing survey this year, the last 6 months, our affiliates alone raised prices almost 16% across the board. And we talk about the conflict or the potential pushback, and there has almost been none. And to me, non-detectable amounts of it. It's not even something I would be worrying about as an owner. I would be maintaining my confidence, knowing my quality, putting it out there and delivering for my clients. And like Dave says, whether it's your top 20%, your top 10%, You know, the 80-20 rule has been around for a long time, and it's held up for eons in many different situations. So I think confidence is a huge thing.
Absolutely. I know Dave has some feedback to that as well.
Yeah,
Sure.
you know, I think when it comes to confidence, I think that is really an important subject, and I'd approach it a couple different ways. You know, the best position to be in is one of being the trusted advisor or the expert, right? And if we look at experts, trusted advisors, it's not like they're shut off to any ideas, any suggestions, any new thoughts, but they are confident in their positioning, right? So if you want to be perceived, and if you are indeed the expert with what you do, that has everything tied to confidence. Now, I will tell you, and I think this is why oftentimes there's tremendous value in someone who's working on their business to be in a group. That could certainly be America's Best Cleaners. We've got a couple groups, Methods for Management, groups like this that are tied with Spot. You know, one of the benefits of being in a group environment is that you can gain confidence by seeing other people in the group take risks and do things. So, you know, if you're sitting around a table with 14 other high-end operators and they've all said that they've increased prices by X percent, and here are our prices, and that's disclosed, and every single one of those 14 said that they did not lose you know, any revenue, or you know, they never regret making the decision. You actually gain confidence to make some of those decisions. So essentially having a peer group that wrestle with some of these same things can really give a boost to confidence, which I think is really important. The other thing too is I want to encourage everyone who is growing their business to really focus on the reason we all got in business, and we've had a tough couple years, obviously, but the reason we all got in business was for freedom. I have a thing on my wall that says it's not the money I'm after, it's the freedom. And we all want a business that serves us and serves our family. And we understand that we've got to serve clients to realize that goal, right? We've got to take care of our clients. However, the nucleus, the foundation is that we have a business that serves us and serves our families and those that we care about and love, including our team members. So if we don't have that, then and we're not sustainable, we're not profitable, we don't put a decent profit down to the bottom line where it ends up being one of our best options, then we're not going to be around to serve clients, right? So this idea that, you know, we need to, you know, be very well aware of our prices, but also our costs. You know, we're not here just to make top line sales, right? We've got to have enough top line sales so that we can deliver a healthy profit and have operational cash flow to continue to invest in our team members, invest in our equipment, invest in our facilities, invest in our marketing and relationship building. That all doesn't materialize just out of thin air. So I think it's a wonderful question.
Absolutely. And that kind of leads me into, so now that we've covered, you know, why we should change it, how we should identify where we should be. Let's talk about the actual execution. When are there specific recommendations that you would have based upon when somebody should change their prices, both time of year, time of month, time of week, time of day, even? Anything specific that you found to be most effective, or does it really just not matter?
Well, so I think what gives us the most freedom in our business, and we all know this, but executing it's a different story, is systems, right? So a system for me means that it's recurring and it's predictable. So let me just tell you the system we do it in the bag. October 1st, the nearest Sunday to October 1st and April 1st, we mark the calendar at the beginning of the year, and we know we're going to do a price increase on those 2 days, twice a year. We do it intentionally at the beginning of going into change of season so that the higher price is there, during the higher season, and we get that little extra boost. That being said, we historically have done 3 to 4%, with the extra kind of uptick in supplies and labor. We actually Sunday before last did a 5% price increase, and just from that sake of confidence, not that I'm over here beating my chest or anything else like that, but I just want to share that with you guys. So I'm in the 50th largest city in the US, Wichita, Kansas, which means not big city, 400,000 people. Our prices are $9.90 for a half body piece of dry cleaning as of Sunday before last, when we changed it 5%. And our shirts are $3.95. Okay, so $9.90 and $3.95, and then other things fall into suit in roughly the same kind of premium price. So now that doesn't stand up to a couture cleaner, of course, but I just want to let you know that if we're able to do that and get about 70% market share here in Wichita, Kansas, with those prices, I just hope that there might be 1 or 2 people on the call that say, you know what, if he can do it there with that, maybe I'm getting in my own way a little bit too much. And so we put it on the calendar, we systemize it. And then, although we don't have time to go over it now, what we do then is we actually take that anticipated amount of gross revenue we're going to gain from that price increase, and that filters down and actually funds all of our raises. So about 40% of that anticipated amount goes to raises of all of our team members, if it's warranted, and which it usually is. And then we keep about 10% there for other increases of supplies, utilities, and then the other 50% ends up being my raise as the owner. So that feels pretty good to know that we can increase prices, and it funds everyone's raises. So everyone gets a raise twice a year, which is also a huge morale booster. And it's turned out to be a really wonderful system to put into place. And the other thing I'll tell you is that when retail team members are very nervous about people noticing prices and blah, 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 all of a sudden that switches on a dime, because they know they've got to be behind it. It's got to be well received because it funds their pay increase. So all of that's a system that's in place. I do recommend that it be systemized. I have another friend, and now I've said this, I think I know 4 people who've done it so far. And if you need to make a major adjustment to your prices, they have gone ahead and raised their prices 1% a month until someone in their top 20% screams. That's a little bit of a odd way to look at it, but the average typically then is 16 to 18 months, which is a compounding 16 to 18% plus. And that is a really difference in price and can give you a lot of flexibility in paying down debt, funding lifestyle, reinvesting in the business, or investing in other things. So that's what we do.
Absolutely. Chris?
Yeah, so I totally agree with Dave, and just would support everyone that you should be intentional about this, right? It's a system, however you define your system, it works for you. And it sounds like Dave has found a really wonderful and elegant system that works for him in his marketplace. And there's nothing wrong with that, you know what I mean? And it's a good place to start. And I also have people have done the same thing with the 1% or 2% increases, because they're trying to find the price elasticity in the market. It's interesting because if you look at some of the data that's out there on pricing surveys, even our affiliates that tend to be price leaders, when we look at C2E studies or price surveys where they actually go out and survey clients in these top quintiles of the population, and they ask them what they're expected, they think that they're going to pay for a two-piece suit. Even our top leaders, and I'm talking in the top guys in LA or New York, because those are whole different crazy markets, but in the middle of the United States, we're still typically 20% less than what the market assumes that they should be paying. So there's a lot of opportunity to raise your prices up into there. So to strategy and to putting in a system is one thing. The other thing is I think you have to look at what is your overall growth strategy. If you are looking to go into a new area, or you've created or you've done an acquisition, there's some pricing that needs to be manipulated or considered in what the end goal is. So for example, with the loss of the retail sales and a lot of sales in the last 18 months, a lot of people shifted and started going into other markets that they wouldn't have been in the lower price areas just because they needed pieces in to maintain their staff. And the intention was, the thought was, well, if I start doing that, then I'm lowering my prices across the board. And that's not necessarily true. You could do that in another market. People think or assume that people in one zip code talk to other people in another zip code and they compare prices about what the price is at the XYZ cleaner. It never happens. It's never even materialized. So I think there's notions about what your strategy is and also who you're trying to service, that your pricing can be aligned to meet those areas. And some people are looking into saying, I want to capitalize and build a route. So I might come in with an introductory price model for the next 6 to 8 months, knowing though that then after the 8-month period, I'm going to start driving those prices up to gain more dollar value out of that, because I have created this new habit for these customers and they are endeared to my brand because I'm continuously delivering this value, and it's very hard for people to change. So I think you can manipulate and use pricing in that sense. And then it also goes into the other notion of when you get into acquisitions, right? So a lot of the acquisitions that are taking place right now are usually you're buying businesses that have lower prices than you do. And there have been strategies on how do I bridge those over. And some people have just come in and said, I'm just going to put in my brand pricing and take whatever comes with it. And that's their strategy. And some have been successful and some have suffered. But one thing I want to say is that pricing doesn't need to be permanent. It's an experimentation, right? So if you're looking for price elasticity and you find it, maybe you back it off a little bit. Not that you want to or you need to, but I think the notion that everyone thinks that once I lock this in, I'm locked in on this price or this program. This is a free market. You can move and do whatever you want, and there's no harm in doing that. I think you just have to be intentional about it and know exactly what that system is or what your program is and what your expectations, and set up your own expectations on what you expect to get from that and what the pushback will be. So lots of good things. And I don't think there's any one perfect strategy for anyone. I think there's a variety of different things that can work for businesses depending on the market that they're in, the brand commitment they have, and what their overall intent is for building their business.
I think the key takeaway there is whatever you decide to do, make sure it's consistent, make sure that it's not something that surprises your staff. It's not something that should be surprising to your customer base either. They understand that inflation is a thing, that the consumer price index goes up, that supplies and labor shortages are a problem. So I would just echo, be consistent about it.
Well, I'll add one other thing too that people should look at on a macroeconomic scale too, is we're at what, 5.6% inflationary rate, right below 6%. If you look historically, that happens. Right now is the opportunity to really, like I said, align your pricing to where it really should be moving forward. And historically, the next 3 or 4 years after that, pricing stays stable. There's typically never been growth. If you look back on Coyle indexes in 2008, there was an opportunity where cost of living increases and CPIs went up to 5%. Everyone did that, but then the next 3 years after that, prices did not move. They stayed the same. So not to say that you can't still raise your prices and you shouldn't, but I'm just saying the opportunity to make a substantial change is now, this time, this period right now, to get yourself up and aligned and then deploy a system and be intentional about it and stop being reactionary. And I think that's an important notion that Dave presented there, is make it intentional.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Chris, Dave, I really appreciate your time. We're gonna switch gears here and get into showing you how you can make these changes in Spot, and then we'll hopefully have a little bit of time for Q&A. We've got some good feedback coming in the questions channel that we can get to as well. So go ahead, Nicole, take it away.
All right, I'm going to grab control here. Give me just a moment. Can you see my screen, Spencer?
I can see it, Nicole.
I sure can.
All right, so once you come up with your pricing strategy and what you're going to do as far as price changes and increases, there is a fabulous tool in Spot called the Price Change Utility that you can use to help make these changes. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time going over how to use that tool, as well as some other kind of tips and tricks. So to access the Price Change Utility, to start off with, you're going to navigate to Menu, Configuration, and then Price Change Utility. Once you've got this tool open, you'll see there's some options up at the top, and I'm going to go over what each of these things does. There is a lot of information in this screen. For today, we're really just going to concentrate on the first 5 columns or 6 columns here, which is just the pricing. All of the rest of this stuff, there are some fun other things that you can do with this tool, but we're not going to do all of that today. So to start off with, when you are ready to change your prices, come into the Price Change Utility and choose which price table you're going to start with. Now, if you have multiple price tables, whether you have some for delivery and some for counter, some for different markets, you can choose which price tables to make changes to the global its price table. So once you've selected your price table, every item in that price table will come up in the utility below. And like I said, we're just going to concentrate on these columns here. What is the item? What department does it belong to? The item name, the category, and then we've got our original price and a new price column. The new price column, you can simply come over here and type a new price in. If you are calculating prices and you want to do something manually, you can also allow the tool to do that for you. So we have department filters. If I wanted to look at dry cleaning only to start with, I could choose dry cleaning, and that will filter this list and only show me the dry cleaning items and take everything else out. Over here, we can use the tool to calculate a price change, and you can do this just to see what the new prices would be. You're not committed to the changes just by using this tool. So if I say I want to do a 3% price increase, I'm going to type in 3, choose percent. You have some rounding options if you wanted to round to the nearest nickel, 9, 10 cents. I'm going to leave it at no rounding, but then use the calculate button. And what that'll do is it will show you your original price and your new price, what those things would be if you changed your prices 3%. If you wanted to do a dollar value instead, maybe I want to go up 50 cents on each item, I can put in $0.50. Same thing, come down and calculate. And we've got our old price and our new price column. So you can use the tool to help just kind of visualize what would my prices look like if I changed prices X percentage or X dollars. You can filter that by department, like I said, so you can start with a single department instead of doing your entire price table. And you can also go back and change certain items. So maybe, for example, you have this collar down here. You don't want to change price on that. You can come back and just type your old price over the new price column, and that price won't be changed when you commit to these changes. So a general kind of word of warning here is when you're using this tool, calculate is great. Go ahead and calculate all day long, but when you hit save changes, those changes are made to your price table instantly. So be very careful. You will also get a warning when you close out of this screen asking if you want to save changes to the current price table. If you click yes to this, everything that you did while you were calculating is going to be saved. So again, just a word of caution, if you're using this just to play around and work on a pricing strategy, don't click save until you're ready. There are a few things that you can do. One of the things that is a great option is taking these items. So I'm just going to drag and highlight this entire thing here. And keyboard shortcuts do work in Spot. So right clicking, you won't see the paste option, but if I do Control C on my keyboard, I can copy this entire table here, bring up Excel, and I can paste this now right into Excel. So if you want to, you can also take the information from the price change utility, bring it over into a program like Excel, and use that to, you can use formulas in Excel if you're familiar with it to help play with prices. If you leave things in the same order that they were, leave everything exactly as it was when you pasted it. If for some reason you make a mistake and you save prices, I actually worked with a client a few weeks ago who wanted to just see what a 25% price increase would look like, came into the tool and did that, and then accidentally saved their changes. If you have come out and done this and copied and pasted your information into a separate format like Excel, if you make a mistake like that, you can use this to quickly make the change back because you do have your original and new price column available here. So you can use it as a backup, not just as another tool for you to see how prices would change based on percentages or dollar amounts.
And I would actually recommend pretty strongly that you use as a best practice, copy it out to Excel, play with it to your heart's content, and then bring it back in because of the the risk involved in making changes that you did not mean to make.
Particularly if you're doing a drastic price change.
Yes,
or playing
absolutely.
with potential drastic price changes. So if something like that does happen and you want to go back to your original prices, it's as easy as just coming and copying the data here. Again, I'm just going to do Control C on my keyboard, bringing it back to Spot. And as long as you kept it in the exact same order, you can do Control V here, and it will paste those prices back in. So you can see my original price and my new price are back to the same thing that they were. So this gives you some confidence. You can have something to go back to if for some reason you make changes by accident. But this tool is very simple to use. You also have the ability with the price change utility to make changes to your upcharge pricing. So all of your upcharge tables are also listed here. If we pick one of them, I'm going to say no to the prompt if I want to save my changes. And then your upcharges would be listed here as well. Same information, same tool here works. You can do percentage or dollar increases, or you can just come type your new price into the new price column, as well as alterations. So upcharges, alterations, and items are all available in the price change utility. So if I come bring up an upcharge table, an alteration table, all of the alteration items are available in here as well. So like I said, simple to use. You can pretty easily create yourself a copy so that if you do make a mistake, you can go back. But choose a price table. If you want to filter by department, go for it. You have dollars or percentage and whether or not you want to round, calculate. And if you need to play with anything in the new price column before you commit to any changes, you can do so manually. There are some other tools in Spot as well that can be helpful when you are looking at making changes to your pricing. And one of those is a specific report that I want to bring up for everybody. So I'm going to close out of the price change utility for a moment, come to reports. And in the reports gallery, under production, we have a report called drop-offs by item. What this report will give you, and I'm in our demo database right now, so it doesn't have a whole lot of data. I'm going to go back 2 years just so I can get some information on this report for you. But you can look at whatever date range you want, and basically what this report is going to bring back to you is a list of how many of every single item was dropped off during the time period selected. This gives you an idea of what are my most common items, what do I get the most of, what do I get the least of. So we can see pants looks like, at least on the first page of this report, the most common item in our database here. But using this information can help you with that pricing strategy. What items, if we want to go item specific instead of across the board, what items should we be looking at first? You also have the ability to export this report to Excel, which I have done, and that is here. So if you wanted to take this report and use Excel to be able to make some changes to this, use formulas to make changes, or just help you decide with your pricing strategy, you can do that as well. And that export tool is right here in the report by clicking the envelope and then choosing Microsoft Excel data only. You would then just choose where you want to save that report. You'd have it in an Excel format that you would be able to use to your heart's content. I don't want to talk too long because I know we have several questions popping up. So I'm going to pause for a moment and just see if any
real quick,
team...
Nicole.
Yeah.
Nicole, can you show us how to get into the price change utility one more time?
Yeah. So menu, configuration, price change utility. Once you're there, enter your PIN number, and you'll be in the tool. One other little trick that I find not a lot of people know, everything in the menu you can drop into your favorite. So if this is something you know you're going to use a lot, drag it and drop it into this My Favorites. And the next time you come into the menu, it'll be right here on the front page instead of you having to go find it. That works with any of the items in our menu tool.
And I'm going to add just quickly, I think this addresses sort of one of the things that was discussed by the panelists, which is the ability to go in and make changes, right? And maybe sometimes you want to push certain prices up and pull certain prices back. And maybe you're only going to do it for a short period of time to test elasticity in the market. This ability to copy and paste into Excel and be able to plan your price increases ahead of time, have everything ready to go, and then simply copy a column and paste it in, and the change has been made is a way to be far more strategic in your planning and give you the time to do it, as opposed to feeling rushed like you need to make changes immediately.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, Torin. Thank you, Nicole. Much appreciated. Let's go ahead. We've got about 3 minutes left, but I don't have anything after this, so I can stick around. I don't know. I do. I'm sure Dave and Chris have other obligations they need to get to, but and we certainly appreciate their time. Let's get to some of these questions. And a lot of this is simply just feedback that we're seeing. But one question that I did have, and I actually created a poll for this when I saw this question pop up, and I'm just curious. So do you post your prices in store or on your website? And you can just select yes, no, unsure. And I'm seeing it's about kind of split. It's actually as more votes come in, I'm seeing about 70% no, 30% yes. And I should say included in that would be whether or not you have printed lists of your prices that you hand out to your customers. Obviously, this is something that would need to be updated as part of your pricing strategy. And Chris, Dave, if you've got just 30 seconds, what would you say are the pros and cons? We'll start with Dave, but what would be the pros and cons of having these posted in the store or on the website?
Yeah, so I think I think if if you poll clients, our ideal clients, price will be down about number 6 or 7 on their list of what's important, and oftentimes it's 6 or 7 as well as to why they leave. So because of that, I'm not a huge fan of putting basically I don't try to hide prices. Here's exactly what we do. I don't put it on the website. I don't put it in the stores. We don't even put line items on the invoice that come off of our metal Progetti bagger. We can always print an invoice that has it if they request it. So we're not trying to hide it. We're just not, and you have to check state by state legality on that. We have to put any taxes in total at the bottom, but we don't do We don't do anything else, and we do not make announcements when we raise prices. So that's our strategy. It's worked out really well for us. But you know, but that's all it is just one way of doing it. We do not focus on price.
Yeah, I'll add to that is that, yeah, if you start posting and focusing on price, you're going to get price conscious customers. And that's typically not what you're seeking. You're looking for, like Dave said, those people that are looking for you for other reasons, your quality, your value, your convenience, and the sense of confidence you provide for their, especially their better level garments. And depending on certain states and cities, because I know like in LA, in Seattle, and in New York, you're mandated to post at least a price list, and it was more specifically for gender pricing, to show that there is no imbalance in gender pricing. And that's a whole other debate that we can get into in another time. I think transparency is important. I think if you were to put your base pricing on your website, not prominently, but at least it's on there, it's available, but I don't make it I don't stress any of our clients to make it a focus. And I can tell you, back when I was at Madame Paulette, we never posted our pricing, and we started at $48 for a two-piece suit. So that price was never the concern. But that was our brand, and that was our model, and that's what we worked with. Now, obviously, people that are out there on the lower end and doing one price cleaning, that's their model, and they're getting those types of customers. But I would cautious everyone to never allow themselves to get caught up in the debate about a competitor showing a cheaper price than what you do. Those are not your customers then.
Yeah,
Perfect.
and I'm just going to
Thank you.
add, I think Chris makes an awesome point with that. You know, that you attract what model you present, and what you present really should be representative of what's important to those clients. So, really great point.
All right. Let's see. Wash, you've been Wash and Torin, I know you've been vetting the questions. There's quite a few in there. Are there any that have stuck out to you that you've answered that might be good to share with the full group?
Yeah, this is Wash. I see one here, and I would welcome Chris and Dave's thought. I think I know what my answer would be, but do you or would you educate customers on the cost pressures on the industry we're experiencing through the pandemic?
I would say, depending on your client and what the reasons they're asking for, I don't think you need to explain it. Take them in the back of your shop and show them what you do. That has been one of the biggest ways to quiet a concerned client, is letting them see it. And they see that you're running a clean shop with happy employees, with no smells, and they see the technology and the information deployed. It's amazing. I was literally on a call before I came here, and that's why I was late, with people in the fashion industry that were asking about me hosting and creating a tour for them again, because I hosted the Custom Tailor Design Association with Mike Nesbitt several years ago, to take the top clothiers to go see what goes on in a dry cleaning plant. And it happened to be that we were in Houston, and Men's Warehouse was there, and they were interested in seeing that. And they're still blown away by that. And they never question any of our affiliates now on price, because they see what goes on. It's a lot more. People, the perception of a dry cleaner is that it goes behind this wheel and there's a Wizard of Oz thing and it comes back out. They have no idea of the amount of investment that's put into putting out that product for them.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. You know, there's a tremendous benefit with technology right now, that, you know, educating your team and educating your clients goes a long way with this. You can share videos, whether it's little clips, you know, and some will be interested, some won't be. Some don't really care to pull back the curtain at all. But, you know, all of that is just continuing to position you as the expert. I like to think of it like this: like, if you're driving down the street and the guy jumps out in front of the Jiffy Lube and waves the sign saying $19, do you want to be that guy, or do you want to be the dealership where you have OEM certified techs? You know, it's very relationship oriented. It almost creates a two different options, right? One's very transaction, one is very focused on relationship. and technology's allowed us to share some of that kind of behind the curtain. Now, be a little careful if you don't have the clean shop that Chris is describing. You know, be a little careful, or maybe clean up shop a little before you record the video. But
Maybe
you know,
everyone,
there's
maybe everyone should
tremendous
have a clean shop, right,
opportunity
Dave?
to do that.
Maybe that's where we should start, right? Everyone should have a clean shop, right, Dave?
That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we are the cleaning industry, right? So
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. I just had one more question. If you guys have just a couple more minutes, just thoughts on a price increase now. They've not done a price increase yet, but with supplies going through the roof, they were thinking of 12 to 15%, but they were wondering if that might be too much all at once.
Well, I think that depends. Sorry, yeah, I think it depends. You know, 12 to 15% of what I think might be the question. But I've seen people do as much as 25%, and they have almost no pushback. So you kind of have to gauge the market a little bit. Supplies are very tricky right now. There's one other little thing I want to introduce here too, is that we all think that, you know, we kind of have the mentality of maybe a cost plus profit. So we have all these costs. I'd like to challenge the mindset on that a little bit, that if costs go up, we raise our price that same amount. My thoughts is that you kind of get, like, if you think of someone who's climbing a mountain, you kind of get up to base camp just by having a good quality and good service, right? Like, that's the basics. But what really gets you to the summit is being able to market and relationship build with your clients to the point where you can charge that. So your high premium pricing is actually reflective in what your ability is to market your services as opposed to produce it. That's my opinion, and I know that's different than what some people say, but as it tracks with supplies and stuff like this right now, that's why I went up a little bit more than usual, because I know the supply and raw materials and shipping issues, you know, it's all, very challenging right now.
I would add, we had some feedback from another customer here who said that that their prices were way under what their clientele would expect to pay, and they went up 45% so far year to date, with no notice in lost clients. Only more work than ever before.
yeah, congratulations, and that's awesome. I love hearing that.
Yeah,
everyone should do that.
So we also have one other question. We had a question about subscription pricing, and we talked about going up on individual items, but not necessarily, or not specifically subscription. Dave, I know you're big in the subscription market. What have you done the same increase there?
Yeah, now because people sign up for those, we have that actually in literature and other things. And Nicole, or you might have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think those items are covered in the pricing utility. I think you have to go in and actually change those separately.
Yeah, they are not. Yeah, they are not.
So, but we are doing that. We just didn't do it when we did all the others, and we are going to increase that. I think the big thing with subscriptions, I think it's awesome. You can really lock in loyalty. You can deliver over the top service. You can be thought of as a one-stop shop, depending on what is covered in the given subscriptions. However, to make it a win or not really depends on how you price it. And that is where it's very helpful to talk to other people in the industry who have done subscriptions. You guys can check out ours, inthebagcleaners.com. But and there's a time saver, we call it, which is our subscription plans. But that's where I think it's very helpful to do that, so that you don't get stuck with where it's set up correctly the right way. And it does have to be done separate, I guess you guys confirmed, than the pricing utility.
Yeah, and what I would add to that is that if somebody is signing up for a recurring service at a specific price, I know that if you've ever anybody that's had Netflix or YouTube TV or any streaming service really, they announce when those prices are going up because it's a recurring revenue. It's a recurring service, and I believe that by law they have to make you aware of that.
Yeah, that's a really great point. And I think it's a good practice too, because like you said, even if it's not contractual and it's month to month, the implied contract is they get certain benefits for a certain price point. And when that changes, they should know about it. I agree.
All right. Well, Dave, Chris, we thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedules to do this. I think this has been incredibly enlightening, certainly to me, as somewhat of an outsider to the market, but not a complete outsider. But there's a lot going on in the industry that I don't know about, and certainly that those of us at Spot are not complete experts on. So we really appreciate you taking your time to do this today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks.
And I'd add, gentlemen, thank you. I'd add to those of you on the call, if you enjoyed it, please give us your feedback. Let us know what you thought of it. You can email us at info@spotpos.com. But appreciate everybody taking time out of their busy day to join us, and we hope you all find it helpful.
And I will say,
oh,
go ahead, Chris. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I thank you guys, Spot, for putting this on. I think it's a very valuable service that you're providing. I'll just leave all the listeners with two suggestions, two wonderful books that are simple and easy reads just to help you put you in the strategic mindset. One is the book Nudge. Good idea for you to understand demographics and psychographics. And the second one would be The Art of Pricing. And look at that and take some of the principles that are in those two books and make your own strategy that works for you. And course correct now. This next couple months, we have an opportunity here to really get your pricing in line, that then you can deploy a system like Davis has mentioned to be intentional about it moving forward. But thank you guys.
Okay. For those of you who didn't get that email, it's info@spotpos.com. Once again, thank you to Chris and Dave, and for all of you for joining us. This was very beneficial. If you're looking for a recording of the webinar, I believe I have it configured to automatically send you a recording of it here in the next couple hours. If you do not receive that, I will also be posting the recorded version of this webinar to our YouTube page, which is youtube.com/spotposmedia. Thank you and have a wonderful day, everybody.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye.